Welcome back to the Eve Ellenbogen show. My name is Eve Ellenbogen, and this is my show. Thank you for being here. This is episode 2 of 2. 2 of 2. And here you are at ground zero of podcasts. For me, first, shout out to my fan from last week. It was pretty cool. I put up my first episode being like, well, no one's going to listen for a while, and that's fine. And within 2 hours of it posting, I was on my way to work, and I saw that, sorry, I have to scratch my boobs because they're itchy. Oh, okay. Itchy just from being so juicy. I don't know. What am I doing? Anyway, I was on my way to work. I stopped at one of those intersections where homeless people, like different people every day, camp out and have a sign. I think the best thing I've seen is now at some intersections, I'll see people holding a sign and it just says nothing on it. They're just holding a piece of cardboard as like a notion, like a gesture, like a, this could have writing on it, but I just didn't feel like lying to you today. One dude at this intersection, every single time I'm there, he has like a different version of a sign, and it's actually grown bigger and bigger over time. And it just says like family murdered in capital letters, need help. And that's a lot of information at 9:53 a.m. Just 2 words or whatever, 4 words. And it's too much for me. But I also this is what happens in a society where there are so many people who are homeless, is that you go, was your family murdered? Or is that just a very intense tactic to get money? I kind of believe it. Like every time it's like a different, I've seen him, I haven't seen him for a while actually, but the last time I saw him, he had a huge like banner, like family murdered, and maybe it works, maybe it gets him some money. I hope, if it's true or not true, I hope he's getting some help. But yeah, I don't know what to do with those intersections, and it's like a really difficult inner game that I think a lot of us play when you're just waiting there and you're going, am I a bad person? I don't know. Because I'm just like, I don't think that this is the solution to anything. I don't think that being at the intersection for the highway off ramp or on ramp or whatever is the way for anybody to get what they need. It's like, I feel like there's gotta be people giving out food and helping with mental illness stuff and job support somewhere that's not the intersection. I don't know. It's like dehumanizing to the person looking for the money, whatever. I know I'm digressing before I've even gressed, but my point is that this is the setting for me looking at my phone, the YouTube comments on the first episode. So I stop at the thing. There was somebody, not the family murdered guy. It was a different woman I've never seen before. The hard part is that that's also where I tend to put on my makeup. It's like, that's a long light when I get off the highway before I go to work, and I always miss it. It's a difficult feeling. You feel a little bit jaded when the light lasts, when it's green, it's gotta be 2 minutes, a minute and a half. How do I miss it every day? It's because then it's red for 3 minutes. And I'm statistically, I should hit the green more than I do, but whatever. Maybe that's God trying to say, hey, give some money to these people. And I'm like, but was his family really murdered? I start to get is that a lie? And I'm like, I'm liberal, but the problem is systemic, whatever. Who knows? Only Jesus knows. And he's not around that frequently. Anyway, it was there that I checked my phone and saw that I already had a couple comments within a couple hours. Isn't that so funny? I've really trivialized the experience of receiving those comments by setting it against a background of people's battle to live and, fending off starvation and drug addiction. I'm anyway, these other people were trying to not die. But I got a couple comments on YouTube in my first episode. But the point is, I really was grateful. And I think, I how I resent the society that we live in, that I can't just enjoy my comments without other people suffering in the background of my receiving them. But I'll tell you the truth, it did not dampen my excitement. I think I've become probably a bit numb to homelessness. Okay, I really didn't want to go down that road, so maybe I can just go back to my point. Thanks for commenting. I'll tell you, I could easily delete this and re-record it. I'm not going to, because this is how it is inside. I didn't sleep great last night. I really did not sleep well. I couldn't sleep till about 5:30 in the morning. It was a combination of factors. I really like when people say it was a constellation of factors, because I like to associate the stars with my problems. It was a constellation of reasons that I didn't sleep well. I had sugar, a lot of sugar, for the first time in a while. I've been eating a bit healthier since I could not stop telling everybody about gaining weight. I was like, maybe I should just, make some changes. And so I've been eating really well. And last night I was like, I'm going to have 2 little desserts from the co-op. And in actuality, it was like 1.5. Whatever, it was 2. No, okay, whatever. It was 2 fucking desserts. And they were really delicious. And does it make me feel good? No. But in the moment, I was like, this is incredible. So that could be part of it. It could be that I was up way too late watching episodes of Schitt's Creek, which is the thing I do when I'm feeling a bit dark somehow. I'll get into a binge thing, and Schitt's Creek is very easy to binge on because they're 20-minute episodes. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's 2:15, 2:30 in the morning. It could be that I had a little bit of kombucha before bed, which has a tiny bit of caffeine, and I'm very sensitive to caffeine. But I think it's also, and I feel bad saying this because I know that my friend watches this, but 2 of my very close friends have very serious cancer. And, it's hard. And it's not just hard because of them actually having it. There's the whole other part of it, which is I think about their experiences of it. That makes me really sad. And then I also feel like, and this is left over from my childhood when my mom had cancer and died of cancer, I feel like I'm not supposed to talk about these things because they drag people down, especially my friends who have cancer. And so I'm walking around trying to kind of hold in this very sad feeling, because I don't want to bum out people around me, but I also don't want to bum out those people, as though those friends who I love, as though they had forgotten, and me bringing it up would really they go, oh wow, I was having the best day with cancer, but I'd forgotten, and now that you've brought it up, that you're sad, now it's I have it all over again. No, they're thinking about it all the time. And, it's not like I'm saying we have to talk about it all the time, but just recently it's just been harder. And so I've been feeling very kind of unsure of how to navigate it, which I guess makes sense. I did work on a joke about it yesterday, which was, one of my friends has encouraged me to work on stuff about it, and my other friend has said it's fine, and is happy that I'm doing it, I think. I'm not making jokes about them having cancer, but just about how my one friend, Hannah, huge supporter of the podcast, of me, of comedy itself. I hope it's okay. I think she would say it's okay to talk about this, but she has said, and I've heard this before, that when you have cancer, people just don't bring their problems to you anymore because they don't want to burden you. They think oh, well, she's dealing with her own stuff. But then as a result, all you're left with is just thinking about cancer. So she said to me very early on, I want to know your stuff, because we voice note back and forth, and the voice notes are long, especially mine. I've been known to send 2, sometimes 3 30-minute voice notes in a row. She lives in the UK. I live here. Time difference. like I'm working, she's sleeping, whatever. So we voice note. And she has said to me, I want to know what's going on with you. I want to know what's, you don't have to make it about me. And I'm like, well, if that helps, like if you really need me to talk about myself, I'll do it. This shy little wallflower, Eve, I'll make it about myself if it makes you feel better. No, I'm kidding. I'm like dying for it. I'm like, please, can we just talk about me again? No, I mean, it's somewhere in the middle, right? Where it's like, I love, our dynamic is that I get to be very self-involved and indulgent, and she's the most fucking supportive person ever. And, of course, it goes both ways in a sense. Like, I love her, I support her, I want to know. But the truth is, every relationship has a dynamic, and the dynamic, I think, is that I am far needier like in the relationship. And so I really appreciate her being like, no, this is good for me. Be needy. I'm like, oh, thank God. So that's something I kind of talked about. And then the other one is it's a different, I don't want to go into it now because it's actually like a pretty, I want to work on it as a joke that I eventually put up in my reels. So you'll just have to follow me on Instagram at Eve Elbow if you want to see that. I haven't recorded it yet though. But yeah, so I think that whole constellation of factors is part of what affected me. And I could not sleep until 5:30 in the morning. And I woke up today at like 10:30, 11, I don't know. And I felt like shit. And I was like, I know what will help is that I'll binge watch the rest of Schitt's Creek on the couch while drinking coffee. That'll really get my blood flowing. No, I felt like shit. But eventually I had to go out to do an errand. So I did that. And then that kind of, catapults you into your day, propels you forward. I'm off today. I go back to work tomorrow. So, yeah, my point is that I'm not articulate. My brain is scattered. I was like, I'm not going to wear makeup. And then I looked at myself in the mirror. Oh, no, I recorded a little bit of myself just to test everything. And then I was like, you're wearing makeup. No, we're putting makeup on you for your own sake, for when you look back at this video. And if you have to edit a clip, we're putting on makeup. But so that was my first point that I wanted to make, is that I've been a little sad. I tend to go to music when I'm having any mood ever, when I'm living, I guess I should say. I tend to like find a song. And so I was journaling before on my little balcony at this apartment that I kind of cleared off. I got myself an Adirondack chair, one of those like plastic kind of, I don't know, whatever, Google it. It's a little outdoor chair, and it's like shaped in a way that I have a little lap desk, and I do my journaling out there sometimes. And so, I like to put a song on repeat while I write, because I have ADHD, which I don't treat with anything other than, coffee, really. And so, and so I was like, what's this song? Not that song. But then I ended up landing on Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. If you haven't heard it, Bridge Over Troubled Water, it's like the saddest song, but it ends up in the most it's like an anthem. It's like the French national anthem, where by the end of it, you're just like, yes! It feels victorious somehow. It feels like, it's weird. The lyrics are like a bridge over troubled water. Like a bridge over troubled, I will lay me down. But it's also, it's like, when you're, I'm not good with lyrics actually. I'll take you, so I'm by your side. Like, sorry, I have a really bad habit of doing that. And again, another thing I could edit out, but I won't. I'm not gonna do it. I wasn't even being as annoying with the singing as I really enjoy being. I really enjoy being so annoying about it. But we're just getting to know each other this way. So middle ground. But I just think it's funny, you're like listening to this song that's like one of the most depressing songs ever. And suddenly it's like, tears streaming, maybe. And it's like, God, this is kind of a banger. Oh, yeah. Simon Garfunkel. This is good. Yeah, it's a great song. There's more I wanted to say about it. Yes, the first time I heard that song, I know exactly where I was and how old I was. I was 17. I was watching TV because it was the tribute to 9/11 that was on TV. I think it was probably about a month after 9/11. And they sang that song, which at the time I was like, whatever. You really need the kind of background instruments, I think, to make that song what it is. And then I remember Fred Durst, I think, sang Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, but instead of two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl, he's changed it to we're just one lost soul swimming in a fishbowl. And I was like, I didn't know. I had never heard the song before. But then, or maybe I had. I think I had gotten it from my stepmother, which was one of the few nice things that she did for me in my childhood. We're better now, but when I was a kid, I would say her main contribution to my life was just some good music. She gave me Radiohead. I think she gave me Paranoid. Was it Paranoid Android? Is that the album name too? The album that Paranoid Android is on, if it's not called Paranoid Android. It's my neighbor. He's carrying his bike in. Anyway, seemed very profound at the time. Fred Durst singing, we're just one lost bowl. What the fuck? One lost soul swimming in a fishbowl. Year after year. We're just one. Yeah, running over the same way. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I gotta stop doing this. I gotta stop getting lost in singing. Last night I was on the phone with my friend who's a comic, Kat Swantner, and we're having a very good conversation. And then we're about to get off the phone, and then I was like, well, we'd been talking about something, and then I went into the full story of it. And I was watching the clock as we talked. I'm like, oh, it's been 10 minutes of just me doing exposition, background. And then, I forgot to say this part happened. Oh, no, but before this, and you kind of catch yourself in a bad story, where you're like, I think I'm telling a bad story. I think I'm not telling this story very well. And I think it was like 20 minutes in that I got to my main point. And then she was like, I'm so tired. I have to go to sleep. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I felt it happen. I couldn't get out of it. You just, sometimes you get stuck in a bad retelling of a story and you bore your friends almost to death. And I did it. That's where I'm at in my life right now. I don't see a lot of people. I do talk on the phone quite a bit. I spend a lot of time alone. And I think I might be becoming boring. I think sleep has a lot to do with it. And so does, I want to get enough sleep. I'll get over caffeinated. In fact, I probably should just cut this whole part out of the podcast. I might. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. You'll know if you're listening to it. Anyway, what did I write? I wrote down some stuff I was thinking about. Bridge over Troubled Water. That was a real, wow. Glad I brought that into the podcast. Yeah. Oh, let me see if I can find this guy's name. Hold on. Just you wait. Yeah. Is that right? Anyway, all right. Anyway, I stumbled. Okay. Anyway, I stumbled across a part of the internet that, it's not part of Instagram, that was really a bummer to me, which is, I follow this chick, Elika Laban. She's Iranian. She's a really interesting commentator about Iran, about the Middle East in general. I feel like I've learned a lot from following her, which is like the lamest thing. But I also research shit and blah blah blah. I do my own research, but no, she was the first one who I remember, at least in my sphere, was talking about the connection between Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis, all the three H's, and Iran. And basically, like, I really, I knew roughly the history of Iran. I knew roughly that the IRGC had taken over in the 80s, and I knew about the revolution and about the embassy hostage crisis, which I really honestly knew about from the movie Miracle. Great movie, a hockey movie, Winter Olympics. And so I knew the basics, but I didn't I knew that, like, they hang people from cranes maybe, or like there's a lot of push towards a more religious fundamentalist society. It's already become that way. Women have to cover their hair, but then they started like murdering women who weren't covering their hair. But she was the first one who kind of connected it all for me. That was like, oh, they're, the sanctions were removed. I think it was like Obama removed the sanctions. I don't remember exactly who it was. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I'm ignorant about, but that basically Iran had more money and then was funding terrorism in the Middle East, like, fundamentalist Islamic terrorism, in order to like destabilize the region and this kind of global march towards spreading fundamentalism everywhere, which like tracks, like what? People who, it's not necessarily ISIS, but it's like, people who are in that sphere, in the suicide bombing sphere, in the murder and rape and torture of people's sphere. Can you believe it that they want to take over more? It's crazy. I would have thought that all they wanted to do was murder locally, contain things. I don't know what it is about the US that's going on right now that we're like turning fundamentalism into like freedom fighting. I don't know. I think really what it is that most people don't actually care. So they'll just like hear something and they go, yeah, I heard that actually it's like this. And you're like, but have you ever like read anything or like picked up a book? And again, I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff, but like I know a lot more than most of the people I come across. Anyway, Elika Laban on her Instagram, she wants the US to invade Iran, because I guess for a lot of people who have left Iran, Americans always say it wrong. I might be saying it wrong. I say Iran. I don't say Iran or Iran. I just say Iran. But, a lot of people who left Iran are anti-regime, the IRGC, because, they are a religious, oppressive regime that kills their own people and is trying to spread fundamentalism and fund terrorism throughout the Middle East. I don't know why you'd be against that. It sounds fine. No, I know people who were like, well, better the devil better not to like see what happens if you go to war. Who fucking knows? I don't know. A lot of people feel very passionate about it. I think she's probably right. She's pro kind of trying to depose of the leadership, but it's hard to know, because then you look at our current government in this country and you go, I don't know that this guy's like the best one for this job. But anyway, she posted a video saying, I don't want to hear from people who blah, 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 whatever, anti-war or this, that. Because in her mind, people are saying that they're anti-violence, but they never gave a shit about the Iranian people, all this stuff. And this guy, the guy who I was referencing, I have to look up his stupid fucking name again in a second, but she screenshotted that he had replied to her post on Twitter, and he was like, shut up, you cunt. No one was killed in Iran recently, the 70,000 people that I think the government admits it killed. Shut the fuck up, or whatever. What's his name? Hold on, let me see his Nazi name here. It's my brain doesn't want me to remember it. Okay, It's Dan Bilzerian. And so out of curiosity, I like went to his Twitter and then his Instagram. And I was like, wow, this is a whole world I didn't even know about. It's just like, I mean, of course I know about it. He's got videos of himself with like Andrew Tate and surrounded, dripping in pussy, like just like, but not women pussy, like women who've like decided to like forego being human. They just have made themselves into pussy. And you know what? That's like giving them the benefit of the doubt and being like, well, maybe they're not sex trafficked. They're probably not sex trafficked. There's so many women who are like, I'll be the little pussy in the video. Like just, where it's like him next to like a woman bending over with like a string. Like just, I can't even believe that this is like allowed on Instagram. That I'm like, whoa. And just him like shaking asses like they're like pillows, on a couch or something. And like, let me just test this one out. Or a teddy bear, or not even like, I mean, because he's not like comforted. He's trying to like fuck it, like, ugh, and he's this like really like muscly, like he's just the most base kind of human, where it's all about like fucking and money and pussy and a bunch of my friends follow it. One of my friends who's a comic has like liked every single video that this guy has put out, except for the political ones. But then I was like, wow, what do I think of that? And then I'm like, well, it's my friend Kyle. If you know who he is, you'll, as soon as I say Kyle, you'll go, oh, it's him. He's just really dumb. It's not even like he's not like, oh, I didn't know there was pussy. Like, he knows it's pussy. He's just like, he doesn't know about like the war. Because this guy, Dan, but whatever his name is, Bilzerian or something, he's got, would you believe it? He seems to be anti-Semitic. I can't believe that this man, today's the day of like sarcastic takes. What? Dan, pussy eating, destroyer, woman hitting, beating, not even allegedly, like assumedly, whatever, not a word, but presumably, rough, violent sex, spitting in your cunt. I'm sorry. Just that guy, he doesn't like Jews? That's so strange to me. But yeah, anyway, he's also anti-war with Iran, which he's proven by calling Ellenbogen a cunt. It's really crazy to me. It's crazy because I looked at the video and I was immediately angry. I mean, if you look at his Instagram, it's like filled with just like women like like just in hot tubs, on beds, cuddling with him, being thrown into things. Like, it's so dehumanizing. And I mean, they literally don't seem human. They seem like AI. They seem like cattle. And it's like, oh, does this guy, I don't know. It's like, why would he call Ellenbogen a cunt? Because to me, I was like, God, that's so intense. But then I'm like, oh, he hates women. I mean, he's surrounded by women, but it's not like he like is like he's not like, babe, what do you think about Iran? What do you think, my queen? What's your take? No, he's like, suck my dick, you dumb fucking whore. I mean, am I allowed to say this on my own podcast? I think so. I guess, God, I wonder if they like censor your podcast. Not that they censor, but like if they deprioritize stuff in the algorithm if you're swearing. I'll have to look that up before I edit it. Because if they do, I'll bleep it out. I want kids to listen, I want to get to the youth. The guy has 30 million, just under 30 million followers on Instagram and a ton on Twitter, whatever, X. I was thinking, I look at the women and they disgust me. And I think about, because I'm like, what are you doing? What do you do? You're just like, sure, I'll be in the video, or not even sure I'll be in the video. I'll hang out with you and Andrew Tate, a known sex trafficker, Yeah, it's fun. I get to look. Like, what are you getting out of it? It's like, I guess you get money, you get attention. I mean, it can't be about the dick. Like, it can't be like, I wouldn't believe it if they were like, I just come like no, this guy doesn't give a shit if you come. But I was thinking about it and I'm like, I think I judge women pretty harshly because I'm a woman, and in stand-up, there's a lot of negative connotations about women. Among comedians, among audiences, people will kind of, even other comics, mostly male comics, and I actually don't take this the wrong way. A lot of male comics will give me the like, but like women usually aren't funny. Like they don't say it, but they're like, are we on the same page that like we know that most women like aren't funny? And I don't think that women aren't funny. I think that women aren't supposed to be free to say what they want, what we want. I don't mean that like we're supposed to be like at home, like in the West anyway, where we have stand up. There's no implication generally that we should be home just like sucking dick and, making dinner. I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys would love that, but I think generally that's not what it is. It's just, you're not supposed to say what you're really thinking. You're not supposed to like talk about I don't know. There are so many men I know who I'm like their closest female friend. And one of my friends was saying to me, and he's a guy, and he's like, well, he wasn't like, you're not like other girls, but he kind of was, where he was like, well, we can talk about all these things that I don't really meet a lot of women who can talk about. Now, granted, I think he has a very self-selecting, or not even self-selecting, he selects the women he talks about. And I'm like a woman in comedy he talks to. All of my female friends talk about all of these things because I wouldn't be friends with them. But I guess the point is just, there are so many women who grow up being taught that their only value is their looks and their sexuality and their kind of youth and, their tits and their puss. And it's not, I mean, it's like, you're supposed to have, I think I talked about it last week, that like one of my nieces was like, it's too late for you to have Botox. I forget if I said that last week or not, but she was 17. I was like 35 and I have a line. I have one wrinkle. I've had one the whole time. It kind of comes and goes depending on how stressed I am. And she was like, it's too late for you. You have to have Botox before the wrinkles start. And I mean, it's a running joke between us now because I'm like, is it too late for me? Am I too old? And she's like, I was so young. I didn't mean it, and it's just a joke. But why would a 17-year-old know that? Why does a 17-year-old have to know that like it's illegal for her to look like she's in a human body that like changes over time? Because she knows even in high school that her main value, her primary value is to be hot and young and to kind of hide any intelligence and hide opinions and hide this part of her personality that's like difficult or picky or strong or anything. And I have jokes about this, about like being single. And part of it is like, I'm pretty, I don't know. It's pretty rare in my life. Only a couple times that I've been like, this guy maybe, yeah, I don't know. Would it work? Like, I don't really meet that many guys who I'm like, oh wow, I would change. I would move to a different place. I would sacrifice my independence to spend more time with you, because I don't think I'm supposed to have all the needs that I have. I'm supposed to like kind of be more, I'm supposed to be smaller, I think, emotionally, or just like do more of it myself, or kind of make more space for him. All right. I had to turn the lights on. I mean, I didn't think about this, that the sun is setting. So it's really fucked up my lighting situation. But I guess it's like when I see this video with all these dumb bitches, and they're such dumb bitches, really making themselves into nothing. I'm like, number one, I guess when I look at this and I judge it, I'm like, if you're really free, which like, are we? Who knows? But if we are, you got to be free to be able to make yourself into a dumb bitch in the background of this misogynistic Nazi video. Like you have to be able to like, decide like, I want to do this. And it's like, well, that's your choice and I can judge you for it, but you're free. Look at you being so free to shove yourself back into that meat grinder. But the other thing is that it's like, I don't know, you grow up in a vacuum. Not in a vacuum. You grow up not in a vacuum. You grow up in a society and a family where maybe your mom is really obsessed with youth and how she looks. Maybe she's neurotic. That wouldn't be the fucking first time some girl's mom is neurotic and then she grows up only valuing her appearance. It's like, I just think like, who are these women, right? Like, and I realize like, they're not my kind of people. And he's not my kind of person, this guy. One of my roommates in Korea was this chick, Anna, who lived in Kyrgyzstan at one point. And it's funny because James McCann, who I opened for, had a joke about this, that I was like, I want to do this joke because I had actually been thinking about it, but whatever. He did it first and it was funnier than mine would have been, I think, maybe. But he was talking about bride kidnapping in Kyrgyzstan. And my friend, she was in the Peace Corps there, and she looks Russian, and there's a lot of Russians in Kyrgyzstan. And so somebody thought she was Kyrgyz and kidnapped her. And bride kidnapping there is basically you're walking on the street, a man drives by in a car or a van, and then they just grab you off the street and abduct you. And sometimes it's violent. And I mean, I think probably all abductions are violent. Maybe there's like some cases where it's like a guy and a girl have been flirting and then it's tradition and he just abducts her off the street and she's like, great, been waiting for this. But generally I don't think it's like that. And then they take you home and you have to like accept this white cloth over your head. And then if you do, that means you're married. And the grandmother's involved in it. And she's like the one who has to kind of, oversee the whole thing. And sometimes there's, more violence. Sometimes there's rape, all these things. And so my friend, my roommate, before I met her, she was abducted and she spoke some Russian and she had to convince this family that she was not Russian, she was not Kyrgyz, that she was American, and that they had kidnapped her and she needed them to like put her back on the street. And she said it took a lot of work and convincing, but eventually they did. They were like, oops, and they dropped her off on the side of the road or whatever. Haha, so funny. And, she had other really harrowing experiences in Kyrgyzstan, but she helped to organize this conference in the capital, which I do not remember the name of it. And it was like with the elders of all these different kind of communities. I don't know. I don't think it's tribes, but I could be wrong. But these women, the elderly women who are kind of the heads of the communities were brought from all over Kyrgyzstan. And it was like an anti-kidnapping conference. And there were a lot of young Kyrgyz women there and all this stuff. And she said that the people who were most opposed to it were most opposed to getting rid of kidnapping. So who were most in favor of keeping it were the elderly women, the leaders, because they said, well, we went through that. That's our tradition. You think you're better than us? It's basically that, And I guess it's like, I feel kind of sad sometimes when I think about women in the world, and I get kind of angry because I'm just like, there's more of us than there are of men, like a little bit. And yet, and a lot of women have done a lot of things, and there's like astronauts and physicists and comedians and writers, directors, all of this stuff. No presidents in this country, but I'm sure it has nothing to do with gender. It has to only do with qualifications. Kidding. But I don't know if it's like part of my programming, but I sometimes blame women, and maybe this is me blaming myself for my own stuff, but I sometimes blame women for not being more advanced in the world. I'm like, the Women's March was, this like big political movement that started when Trump was first elected, and they had this like anti-Trump march. They had the Women's March, which was like the pink pussy hat shit, which I always thought was so fucking cringe, but whatever. It was a huge movement and huge march, and they had all these women show up to show their frustration. And the organization imploded because there was infighting. Because apparently it centered around, there was a black woman, Tamika Mallory, and then there was like a couple of Jewish women, and it became about like the Jewish women were the oppressors and the black women had been, so I mean, this was like a New York Times Magazine article about this like years ago. And basically it was like, these women were upset and these women, and then this faction, blah, blah, blah. And it imploded. And the women's movement fell apart. Then you had like the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the U.S. And I remember that summer, it was like 2021, I think. I was living in Brooklyn. I was livid. I couldn't even sleep. I was so angry that like I couldn't believe that like our rights are being eroded. I've always wanted an abortion. No, I don't want an abortion. I just want to know that if I get pregnant, I still have ownership over my whole body. And I started looking at, like, I wanted to go to a protest on 4th of July. I'd been to some protests at City Hall in New York. It was very muted. It was very like, and so now we want to welcome this group. And it was like Asian and Pacific Islander, blah, blah, blah. And now we're going to welcome this group, and all these groups like speaking, but it was like organized by the mayor's office or something. It was very like kind of like bureaucratic. And I was like, this sucks. So on the 4th of July, I wanted to go to some protests. I was fucking livid. And I looked up all these protests that were happening all over Brooklyn and Manhattan. And that was also at the height of like trans stuff coming into the mainstream. And on all of the protests, all of them, 100% of the ones I could find in New York, it said, please do not put the word women on your signs, because this is not about women, it's about people with wombs. And it was insane. And I remember going to this protest, and some people hadn't read the Instagram instructions or whatever, but I remember there were these like older kind of lesbian, like kind of like bike, like the Dykes on Bikes. You probably don't know, but Dykes on Bikes was like a thing in New York during the Gay Pride Parade back in the day. They were like topless lesbians who'd ride their motorcycles through Manhattan. And that's like what they're called, Dykes on Bikes. So it was like the tough older lesbian kind of thing. And there were a bunch of them there. And they were like really like, yeah, fuck this, And it was not for them at all. And not for me at all. Because the speakers were like, I remember just this woman being like, the only time they said the word women was to chastise white women. When they were like, white women were surprised to find out when they woke up that their rights could be taken away. But women who were non-binary or, trans women or women of color, this, that, always knew that they didn't have rights in this country. And it was like, because you saw the like lesbians being all amped up and then like, but they're white. And then being like, wait, what? Like, how did a like 75-year-old lesbian, who had to deal with all the shit she had to deal with, somehow become the focal point for the anger? And so I guess when I see these when I see dumb fucking women, like, yeah, I'm mad at the men. Of course I'm mad at the men. But I also am like, you can be brainwashed and taught and all these things, but if you always have the explanation that like, well, people can't evolve past what they're taught, then no one would have evolved ever, right? It's like, if we all are just a product of how we're raised, then we should all just be peasants, like there's no progress in human evolution if everybody just stays where they were told to stay. It has to come from something inside. It has to be like, yeah, fuck this. I'm not just a fucking, like automaton. That's what I was, automaton. I remember, whatever. I'm not just a fucking ass and tits, right? It's like I'm a whole human being. But it's kind of crazy to see these videos because it's like, they can't all be sex trafficked, those women. I know that they're not. Like, I know that a lot of them are there because they want to be there. And it makes me so mad. So my point is, when you see a woman who is being oppressed, blame her. No, that's not my point. All right. I got to go soon. I have my show before I go, I think I want to start a new tradition for this podcast, which is something that I started in Mexico. I mean, I didn't start. It's a game I played in Mexico with Hannah and then some other friends. We were all there about a year and a half ago. And it's a version of Fuck, Marry, Kill. Fuck, Marry, Kill, where you have to decide among three people who you would fuck, who you would marry, who you would kill. Usually it's three different celebrities. And I will start it this week with the way I did it in Mexico, which is all of them Tom Hanks. It's Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks as the guy in Castaway, and Tom Hanks as the boy turned adult in Big. And this was a real ethical quandary for us in Mexico, because on one hand you have Forrest Gump, who is technically mentally retarded, and I say that that's the actual name of what he's called, developmentally delayed, mentally retarded. You have the guy from Castaway, who is a shell of who he was, and you have a child who is in a man's body. And in the movie Big, he ends up having sex with a woman, which is that could only have happened in the 80s, 90s. Like that today, that wouldn't fly. But now we watch it, we go, what a great film. I just love Big. I love that part when he has sex and there's the innocence of a little boy. Yeah, because I think he's supposed to be 12 in the movie. I think that's like, what? A 12-year-old boy having sex with a woman. But whatever, it's, cool for him. Would have been different if that were a movie about a girl. You could not have Big about a young little girl who turns out up in like a woman's body and then fucks a man. And part of the reason you couldn't have that is because they'd be like, why do you need to turn her into an older woman? Just keep her young, right? Just what's wrong with a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old? That's pretty hot, That's what it is. It's not far-fetched enough, really. It's kind of boring. Yeah, a 12-year-old girl with a 35-year-old. Well, that's, whatever. It was the 70s. I think that's how old. Maybe she's 14, the girl that Roman Polanski is accused of assaulting. But, it was a different time. Back then we had sex with kids. That's my Roman Polanski. He's not even French. And that's not even a good French accent. Back then we had, we drugged the children, because he gave her Quaaludes. And then we had sex with them and we felt great. And we made art, and that was how we made life, is we fucked. Sorry. I was getting so dark. I'm like, as we fuck the life out of the children. Cute. Maybe I won't make that into a stage joke. But I do like the idea of Big wouldn't work if it were about a girl, because no one would. They'd be like, why does she have to be an adult? Keep her that age. I mean, that is Lolita, right? That's the plot of Lolita, is an older man being like, look at this little girl. I mean, I think he's not Russian in the story, but it's a Russian author. But that's also not a Russian accent. Look at this little girl, Lolita. She is so beautiful as a little child. I couldn't finish Lolita. I tried. I have to go back and read it. I was trying to read it during COVID. It's a lot. So it's a beautifully written book, fascinating story. But right as he's about to molest her, I went, you know what? This is enough for now. Life is hard enough at the moment. I will wait until COVID ends to get into pedophilia. And lucky for me, they recently released the Epstein files. I've got plenty of reading on my plate. But anyway, I digress. I've digressed. I'm going to gress back. Fuck, Marry, Kill. Tom Hanks in Castaway. Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks as a child in Big. So I think the unfortunate truth of this is you're going to have to kill the child. Like, you can't. I think especially in the era that we're in, you cannot say I would marry a child or I'd fuck a child, because Epstein, he's really ruined that for everybody, even as a joke. So in Fuck, Marry, Kill, you'd have to kill Tom Hanks as a boy in Big, which leaves you with Forrest Gump and then Castaway. Now, I've heard arguments for both sides. I always thought, well, Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump, in Forrest Gump, he does marry Jenny. And when she dies, he takes care of her. So I thought, oh, well, he's a good husband. And then the castaway guy would be like a really good fuck, right? A lot of passion, a lot of angst. But then someone pointed out to me, I think it was yesterday, no, you don't want to marry Forrest Gump. You're going to be with Forrest Gump for the rest of your life. Oh my God. Because then it also feels like an extended form of abuse, right? Because you're having regular sex with like a mentally incompetent man. Although at the end of the movie, he does raise his child. So he's not fully incompetent. He's just like kind of limited. I sound really mean, but I'm just saying I'm taking this in the universe that it's in, right? I'm not like putting him into like our world and like truly evaluating him, right? I'm just taking the director, I'm taking Robert Zemeckis' word for it that he is mentally stunted, but that he also raises his own child. I think that I think I've flipped. I think that I would have sex with Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump. In the movie, he has sex with Jenny a couple of times. First, well, I think that's the only woman he has sex with. He loses his virginity to her, and then they have sex again, and he ends up with the child. She ends up with the child. I think I'd have sex with him, and maybe it would be like an innocent thing, like a teaching him about this already sounds disgusting, and I cannot believe I'm going to put this up, but I know for sure I'm not going to edit this out. But I'm like, I guess it'd be like educational, like teaching him to have sex. I feel, this is hypothetical, and I feel morally like corrupt right now. Okay, sorry. I thought my computer had stopped recording. So I would think I would do that, and then I would have sex with the guy. I would marry Tom Hanks from Castaway. And the person I was talking to the other day made the point that like he's really had an experience, And I think also to add to that, I am a very independent person, kind of unfortunately. Like I just need a lot of alone time. And I think he'd be fine with that because he was alone for like 5 years at sea. Like he was talking to a volleyball, And I think that'd be great. Imagine that. You could be married and you could go days and just not even notice. It'd be like, oh, I just want to watch my own thing tonight, or I just want to go for a walk, or I just want to. And then when you show up, he's just so grateful to have you there. And he's very present, right? Remember the end of the movie where he's like, I'm so sad that I've lost her, but I'm so grateful that I had her on that island or whatever. I mean, I watched the movie recently because I'm going through a lot at the moment, so I watched Castaway not that long ago, so I can quote parts of it. Okay. So yeah, fuck, marry, kill. You kill the kid in Big. You fuck Forrest Gump and feel bad about it, but you do what you do. And then you marry Tom Hanks in Castaway. And you forgive yourself because you're doing the best you can. If you have a suggestion for other celebrity, someone also suggested not just the same celebrity as different characters, but also like any kind of weird combination, people with the same first name, same last name, whatever thread you can use to connect them, feel free to suggest it. I think I want to make it a recurring weekly thing. Anyway, thank you for listening. You're beautiful. Tell me what you like. If you like something, if you don't, you can say that too. It'll hurt my feelings, but you should share. Okay, bye.